Hi, Jim. How are you today?
I'm doing well for a Monday.
For Monday. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Wonderful. Yeah. I'm not bad myself. So
great.
that said, Monday. So for us, it is a process Monday. Okay. Process meaning that we want to talk about business process evolution in some way. Okay.
Yes,
And
and
yeah,
it's
and
evolving.
I would be happy to hear all you have to spill out, because knowing you with your absolutely extensive background in everything that comes to automation, to workflow, to business process management, to things that were once hot, not hot anymore, and those are that's still hot and will be even hotter in 2020. So talk to us, please, about process in 2020 and give us some good views of what's going to be growing and what's not.
Okay, well let's talk about processes themselves because they're the key to a lot of things. Number one, they're key to automation, and automation smells of savings to all managers, so they want to do it.
That's good. We like savings.
That's why RPA is hot. And also, it's key to the customer experience. The problem is that there are two different goals. There's the corporate goals, and then there's the individual goals. And we'll talk about that. But how is process changing? It's one of these things where it's expanding, it's contracting, and it's exploding. So let me explain how it's doing all three simultaneously. First of all, on the expanding part, processes are starting to go across the silos. They're starting to go across organizational lines. They're trying to get end-to-end results. So if you're looking to automate, you can automate point automation and make a manager make their goals. Or you can automate so the organization gets their goals, and that means it's going to expand. So we see a renewed interest in supply chain, in value chain, and journeys. So we'll talk a little bit more about journeys in the next section, but it is expanding. So the scopes of processes are getting wider. Okay, that's good. We can agree with that. We can see that.
Wider is better. Good.
In
All right.
fact,
Things
in
to
fact,
do.
yeah, and in fact, you see that on the mining end. When you're trying to look at results, you're looking, when you're mining, you're not looking at from a process out, you're looking from the goals in. And so the mining needs a bigger space to test, to see that the journey or the process or the value chain is delivering what it promised. So the expansion's happening, the contraction's happening in that some of the processes are moving to the edge. So we have these sentinels out on the edge that are looking for things, and they have some recognition of events and patterns. Then they trigger off an action. Well, action means what? Process, right? And so the idea of triggering off an action, and that action might be running through more analytics and then reports back, or make a decision on your own on the edge. We're a little bit far away from that, where we have bots, agents, and mini process snippets making decisions on behalf of big companies. That will happen once we set in governance and boundaries and goals. But for now, it's not occurring that way. It's simple processes on the edge acting as sentinels on behalf of your organization. So it's getting smaller because these processes are kind of itty bitty. So we've got big, we've got small, and now we've got explosion. Well, where is it exploding? Well, exploding under the tag workflow. Workflow is getting embedded in every content vendor, every data vendor, every collaboration vendor. They soon realize that data that doesn't move is not as valuable as data that's moving. So that means you have to look at the data as it moves from role to role, as it moves from organization to organization, as it moves from company A to company B to company C. So the movement is absolutely essential. And because of that, workflow is getting embedded in everything. We're even seeing, RPA is white hot. We all know that. So after you get the tasks done, and that's great, get all these little tasks automated, and there's a lot of savings. The accountants are celebrating, they're cutting cakes, whatever they do when they're happy. Are they ever happy?
Oh, they are happy, exactly. But yeah, let's assume, yes, for simplicity, right? Let's assume, yeah.
Yeah, so let's assume they're happy. The next thing you need to do is move on to process, step A to step B, looking out and partnering with other things. So we're seeing a lot of RPA vendors, linking up with process, which brings me to the next topic, automation. There's a lot of automation going on, and processes are the hub. That's where you're going to see a lot of the resources that are orchestrated. Those resources need help. They need to know when to do what they need to do, whether it's a case or an end-to-end process. What should I do? How should I do it? How do I know I'm successful? All of those things are important, and that's a key part of automation. So RPA vendors and process vendors are merging. So we've seen, some real key leaders in the process area buy RPA vendors. Pega and Appian have both bought RPA vendors. So we know that that's a hot one. We know the RPA vendors are partnering with process vendors or looking to sell themselves in some cases. So I've talked to some, new young RPA vendors to say, well, what's your goal? Well, we have this niche where we want to do high performance. Well, what's your real end game? We want to get bought. So, it does happen. And so the notion of process involved with automation, it's involved with automation of the resources as they get helped. If they get a help by, let's say, digital assistants, chatbots, bots, those resources, you can find them by looking at the process. And if you look at the process, you're going to find the choke points. You're going to find the critical paths. You're going to find the delays, which says that part of this automation has to be mining as well. So you have to look at what's happening. You need dynamic visual capabilities that help you optimize. So is that going to happen on a step? Maybe. I don't think so. I think it's going to happen in a process flow, whether it's an instance or a case or an aggregate of cases that are brought together. So we're seeing also partnering and purchasing of process mining tools. So the notion of process is absolutely essential for automation. So we've been kind of talking about all of the great corporate benefits and the accountants being happy. Guess what? There's somebody else in the picture. And that's the third thing. It's customers and employees by nature. And that's now processes are looking from the standpoint of journeys and customer experience. So you'll find that the goals that the corporation has, the organizations have, are different than the goals the customers have.
And the right? Yeah, despite all the efforts, right? Yep.
Right, exactly. And so we're seeing people trying to understand the journeys. They either map them or measure them or both. So if you don't really know what's going on in the customer experience, you're probably going to use some mining of some sort. If you aren't really sure about your customer experience, you might start off with mapping, and eventually you're going to converge both, because mining tells you what's going on right now. Mapping says, where do we want to go? And you really need both to move on. And the problem is the vendors don't work that way. For the most part, they either map or mine, and what everybody needs is a combo of both. So the notion of journeys, customer experience, those things are gapped widely from what processes we have. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm sure we all have our horror stories about either calling up an
Yes, we do.
organization or
I
try
can
to
share with you if you'd like, but yeah, keep going.
yeah, or use their website. I had to buy some temporary medical insurance for a trip I'm doing overseas, and I had to deal with these websites. Eventually, I got hung up, so I had
That's
to call
surprising.
somebody,
Okay. Mhm.
and I got hung up because they wouldn't process the payment. I mean, I put in all the payment stuff. I followed and made my selection and did everything they wanted me to. And then when I tried to pay, it wouldn't take my money and it wouldn't tell me why. And
Okay,
imagine,
that's keeping
imagine,
mystery alive. That's kind of, yes, right. Keep you
imagine a
intrigued.
customer
So what do
begging.
you do as a customer? Yeah,
Imagine a customer trying to beg you to pay.
exactly. I've been in these shoes. Keep going. Okay.
So what we're seeing is, I wanted to get this done as fast as possible because I wanted to move on to my next checklist item,
Mhm.
getting ready for this trip. And I wanted to make sure I had medical insurance because, at my age,
A good
I
idea
might
to
have
have
a
it
problem.
insurance. I'm with you. No
Yeah.
matter what age we are. So
So the notion of getting the customer goals aligned with the processes is a long-term effort. And if we do that, guess who's going to be happy? The employees. Because right now, what do? We give them scripts for the things we think are going to happen. And
uh-huh.
by the way, when I called up this company, the lady didn't have a script for my situation. I don't know what's going on. I got to call tech support, tech support. Did you catch that? Tech surprise.
Surprise, like surprise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's new. That's new function. Maybe companies should
New
think about
function.
it.
Yeah, well, they usually surprise me. So anyhow, they called back the
Mhm.
next day, and guess what? I went to another website and put my business elsewhere because I had a goal to get it done quick. And they actually had the best plan for the best price. But you know what? I paid a few dollars more to get it done.
That was a surprise for your original company, right? Surprise, customer left.
Yeah,
Surprise.
exactly. Well, and they kept calling me. They called me 5 times. Um,
Happens, yeah. When you
Till
lose a
finally
customer.
I managed to pick up the phone and say, well, sorry, I couldn't get past your problem. So this notion of processes being far away from what the customer wants is basically it. And by the way, the second company had its problems too. But when I called, they answered and they had a script. And it wasn't on payment, it was on understanding one of their plans. So the notion of taking care of customers, absolutely crucial. And we have to balance that with automation.
Mhm.
And we have to balance it with the right kind of process, with the resources being assisted in the right way, in real time, in a goal-driven fashion. We're not there yet, but that's where we're moving.
Jim, let me insert a provocative question here, okay? Because we're talking about customer journey and the term is still very general, okay? If I talk to my technology practitioners and business people, and if I'll open up my mouth and say customer journey, I will get some of their enthusiasm kind of diminishing as we speak about it. You know why? Because I was on teams where we were mapping and designing customer journey based on nothing. Okay, so we were basically, introducing our own thoughts and ideas and experiments, that sense. So where is it coming together in organizations that you've seen, okay, where people getting together, they would love to understand customer journey and build processes that will support it. But
Right.
I've seen so many disconnects happening in real life that how do you think it should come together in most optimal way?
Well, ideally,
Mhm.
if you can get the executives in the room and understand the basic
Mhm.
journey and what goals they want, that's ideal. Unfortunately, they don't necessarily do that. If you can give them a measurement to start with and say, this is what we're doing now.
Mhm.
And then they say, well, our goal is this. Does this now match our goals? and they will respond to data. The problem is most of the executives are quite blinded, and they're blinded by saying a journey starts when they go into our door, whatever that channel is, and the time they leave it. Well, that's not a customer journey. That is your support for a part of a customer journey. So in the case of looking at the nums, figuring out what's really going on, making sure management understands their goals, and then all of a sudden you take the blinders off and say, hey, have you thought about having different goals, like really serving the customers, not just serving them when they're in their door? So for instance, how do you think Uber came up with their model?
How? Tell me, because many people guessing, right? Not many people.
Yeah, well, you know, they looked at the whole journey of traveling, and you know, if you ever tried to hail a cab in Manhattan or San Francisco, it's ridiculous.
I know what you're talking about.
So they're going like, well, from the time that I have an inkling that I want a ride, and I might be in the middle of a meeting, and somebody's arranging some kind of a ride for me, if I know it's going to be a certain kind of car at a certain kind of time, I know that they're, you know, authentic drivers working for that company, they're going to be there on time, that's my journey, and they're going to get me to the airport on time, wherever I'm going.
Let me tell you a little bit here, Jim, okay? We all like Uber and Amazon examples, okay? And we don't like blockbusters and who else went out of the business big way, right? So what I understand is that it's not easy to start a new company and understand that journey from scratch. Good for Uber and everybody else, right? Thing is, most of the companies who have the customer base and who have been in business for years, if not decades, okay? They think they know the customer. They think the journey is clear. This is what people buying from me. I should be doing the same. Okay, so where is this big aha moment that no, people will not be buying from me tomorrow if I keep doing what I'm doing now?
Well, there's two things you can do. One is really talk to customers.
Okay.
Interesting idea. And actually surveying them with open-ended surveys. Every survey that I've seen, I'm saying, well, I can see what they want. They want a high rating here because they want to look good to their managment. It has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, they'll tell you they want everything good and nothing bad. That's what survey will tell you.
Yeah, wasn't I nice to you? Shouldn't you give me a high rating? Whether I served your whole journey?
And most people are complacent. We're all nice people. We want to say, yeah, I like you. You're okay, right? Yeah. So keep going.
Yeah, you don't want to say, well, you were a nice step in my whole process. So I would like somebody, you know, to be not so much a travel agent because I don't trust them anymore. They've made too many mistakes for me. I want to be enabled to handle a whole trip from the, you know, knowing what the weather's going to be like, where to eat. I want to know and how well they're rated, what people will recommend. People like me have. I want them to recommend a hotel that's close to things that I want to see based on my interests. And I want that and the airfare and the ground I want it all, my whole travel journey, one and done. Nobody's done that. Now.
Exactly, because companies actually want to squeeze in their product somewhere. If I'm selling hotels, right, I'm going to expand on hotel point. I don't have a relationship with airlines. It's too messy to really the whole journey functional here, right? So how do companies do that if I'm a bank, if I'm an insurance company, and in this whole journey, I only have limited offers. So I kind of backtracking what I can offer, you know, this kind of old way product.
So let me talk to about a company I worked for. All they sold was life insurance. Right. All they sold.
Yep.
And we started discussing, well, life insurance, aren't we only involved at birth or purchase and death? So let's make those processes real good. Let's listen to the customers. Guess what? They still weren't happy because we weren't looking at their whole life cycle. and what kind of investment needs they needed. Some people were using life insurance as an investment vehicle, as a inside buildup or a tax dodge, I like to call that. So the notion of providing a full financial suite was really something that top management took a decade to decide. But they finally listened to their customers and they said, my journey's my life. I want a relationship with a financial organization that's not just going to sell me life insurance, who's betting I'm going to live and I'm betting I'm going to die. That's not the right way to handle that. So they eventually became a full financial network. But it took a long time. And a lot of people like me quit saying, you guys don't get it. You guys just don't get it. I believe it, and I'm going to go work for another company that does get it. And I did. So,
you know, you helped me, Jim, and I hope you'll help our viewers and listeners in a way that customer journey is very practical term. It's not the word on your PowerPoint. It's seriously, yeah, a tool to measure your whole business and make success and innovate based on that. So no, this is tremendous. Okay, going back to processes. Okay, we kind of diverted toward one of the elements, right? So
right, and what I'm saying is that processes will come together with the journeys if the journeys are designed. So in other words, to me, the journey is the key piece. So we're seeing journey, and it's not just customer journey. We see content journeys. We see product journeys. We see value journeys. So there are a lot of journeys that are out there that aren't just customer journeys, just happens to be the hot topic of the day. And BPM has been very good, and process has been very good in associating with the bright, shiny objects. What are the bright, shiny objects today? RPA, mining, AI. Those are all hot topics. And then analytics. And all of those things are hot topics. And process is somewhat subservient to it because it's not hot. CIOs have to answer to their CEOs, why don't we have one of these? They don't have to answer, how good are our processes and do our customers like them? Basically, the business people say, leave that to me. And you know what? They're not using enough of support to find out what that is. Leave it to me means I design a survey that makes me look good.
And they do, right? And
that's what they do.
Or not on paper, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love business people. I love working with them. My job has been a communicator between tech and business for a long time, and it's been a lot of fun. But given to their own devices, they're not going to do what's right. And by the way, same thing with IT. Given to their own devices, they're not going to do what's right either. It takes a balance of both of them, which have the goals of the company, the mantra of the company, the goals of the customers, the goals of all of the constituents, whether they be vendors or employees, and have them in a finely tuned balance that's dynamic. And they have to be built for change. And that's why we see things like low code. So low code is a hot topic. It's another shiny object that processes are linking up to. So we're seeing.
Dive deeper here, because again, my finding lately is that BPMS, business process management system, people confuse it with low code because nobody remembers where things were 15 years ago. So let's talk what low code is and what it isn't in terms of process context.
Well, you can define anything as low code. You could take a macro in Excel that you reuse as low code.
Yeah.
So reuse is low code. Building a picture that generates code, model driven. Well, that's low code. Having a framework where you click with drop downs to create a language.
Yeah.
To get some logic done, that's low code. It's all low code. And I've written a blog on that. There are different kinds of low code, and you can have, and low code can be multi-dimensional. So we see some tools that have it all. So one of the major BPM tools said, well, we're low code now. And
Exactly.
so,
Is it true? Is it not true? Where is this distinction?
well, yeah, BPM has a form of low code in it. And process tools have a form of low code. Anytime you can draw pictures and generate logic from that, that's a form of low code. What is low code? Low code is get me there faster.
We all want it faster, right? That's how we live now. We want to read faster, we want to watch faster, exactly, right? Yeah,
exactly. So how you get to faster depends on how you want the total cost of ownership. So if you want the total cost of ownership to be really low, it's probably more graphic oriented. If it's language oriented, it's probably higher because you can need a different level of skill. So the notion is, what is low code? The answer is, you could make a case that a lot of things are low code. They have aspects of low codeness in them. And that's speed to market. Any kind of reuse is low code. Any kind of macro is low code. Any kind of script is low code because you can leverage it. So people could say script languages are low code. Well, yeah, they are in a way.
And from this thinking, where is the step to really holistic process improvement initiative? Because if you're improving here and there, even RPA can help you, right? Task automation, packets of improvements here and there, right? Where is this bridge to process?
Yeah, and if you look at any of the RPA vendors' demos, they have low code in them.
Because it's a hot topic,
Yeah, and so what these things are artificial markets, so investors can make money.
Yeah, that's important.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm glad VCs are out there creating markets and making money and creating hype so that this stuff grows. The problem is sometimes that, the hype overreaches and doesn't deliver all that it promises. So that's why we're seeing a lot of these things converge. So we're seeing very powerful pairs and triplets, BPM and RPA, powerful pair. You combine it with process mining, it's a powerful triplet for automation. And out of that, we're seeing what I call digital business platforms that are specialized. So you see automation, digital automation platforms, intelligent automation platforms. They are taking these powerful pairs, triplets, quadruplets, quintuplets, and putting them in a package that work well together, that are get you results the way your company does. So these digital business platforms are converging, emerging, and eventually they'll consolidate. But we're not there yet.
We're not there yet. So where we are, Jim, we are in 2020, okay? And do we want to talk about process evolution in 2020? Because you've been pretty good in summing up digital trends in 2020, AI trends in 2020. So where's process in 2020?
In everything and exploding. So it doesn't get the attention that it used to. The heydays of process were the years 2000 to 2007. And then it kind of went into, if you followed the old hype, curve, it, went down, and now it's mature, and it's just kind of quietly mature, and it's linking up with immature things so they can be more powerful. There's nothing wrong with that. That makes a lot of sense to me. So, in order for process to be strong, it has to have a strong group of vendors. Well, just to give you an idea, they are very strong. There are a number of them. I covered them when they started back in 2000, and some of them were $1 million. Now they're 200 million. One that was 15 million is now $1 billion. So we see that they have been either buying or attaching or partnering as this grows, and they're becoming digital business platforms. In fact, some of them will sell applications right on top of themselves that have the business logic and a very flexible, fast platform. And I think that is the way to go. People have always said, well, you can't be good at business function and horizontal technology at the same time. That was true in the old days. this is being disproved as we speak.
As we talked about RPA, you mentioned RPA, what is it, bots, farms that are functionally oriented, okay? That's a new direction we've seen, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you take some of the bigger players, they'll have an accounts payable, they'll have an accounts receivable suite of business technology that is based on bots. And there's some process in there as well. So they've got some lightweight workflow, or they partner with somebody for workflow, or they bind the flow because the flow is so predictable. So they just code it. I don't like that. I think, you know, you can assume that there's no volatility and you can bind things together. Usually it comes back to bite you.
And you mentioned, actually, I liked our RPA talk so much last time that you mentioned, hey, there's huge opportunity to provide this management platform for bots. Okay, yes. They're not going to be full-blown process platform, but they'll definitely make people's life easier, right?
Exactly. And so there's a phenomena here. There's initial cost, which people kind of call total cost of ownership. And then there's real total cost of ownership. You start chasing the flashy objects and you start building all of these things. And you copy them, you clone and go, and you make this great big inventory of all these things, and you can't manage them. And then the total cost of ownership falls off the cliff. So the idea of balanced total cost of ownership by managing these things, whether they be bots, whether they be AI services, whether they be microservices, manage them and knowing what they are and having some kind of metadata about them so that you can manage the metadata. So there are tools that are out there that will mine the metadata about these objects and help you manage. So, I don't necessarily want to mention a vendor, but like Salesforce has all these things and people are chasing. I could do this and stuff, do that and stuff, I could do this. And all of a sudden, they are afraid to make a change over here because it might affect something over here. So
that's where holistic kind of thinking starts, right? Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. But the genie's out of the bottle. How do you go back and stuff that back in the bottle? Well, what you do is you measure it. You mine the metadata. So not only can you mine data, you can mine metadata, which gives you information about the assets that you have. And if you change one, what's the ripple effect? And so in essence, the notion of having a mined repository is important. Now, some people call them bot farms, some people call them process model inventories, some call them, application portfolios, but having that, knowing where they are. And as we move to smaller processes, process snippets, microservices, it's even more important to have that.
So in 2020, what I've heard, right, we will see more adjacent technologies working together. We talked a lot about RPA. We talked about AI in previous sessions, okay? And we talked about data and process mining. Anything else you seeing in 2020 for processes? Again, going broad, going deep, what's kind of,
Well, getting transparency would include maybe some new visualization capabilities. So the idea of being able to see things in 3 dimensions will be important. The idea of being able to capture things at the edge. So I've seen new technology that can map a building, for instance, just in case there's an active shooter in it. So they have a map and they can give it to people in real time to know the building that they're going into if there's an active shooter in it. So the idea of capture is getting quicker and is more, not just geospatial, it's more than that, it's in context. So which rooms have the places to hide, which rooms have the locks, which rooms have, we can make sure there's enough air there if people are there for a long time. So all of these things are happening. So there's other adjacent technologies in the area of capture, particularly to the cloud, and also visualization. I think you're also going to see the notion of decision management becoming a crucial technology. It's just starting to happen now with things like decision models and rule inventories, where if I make a change in one of my scenarios, I see an opportunity that I didn't have in my planning scenarios, but I want to take advantage of it. I want to know all the things I have to change to take advantage of that. So the idea of having an inventory of rules, maybe an inventory of model of rules. So then I think decision management will start to emerge in 2020. But now we're getting into 2021 predictions. And
Sure.
I don't know if I'm smart enough to go, but I mean, you have a lot of things that are happening. I just saw something on a Biobot today, where scientists are training bots to do certain things. So
we're seeing we're seeing lots of the explosion of consumer technology, right? Consumer electronics, right, and things that will be in our future very soon. Okay,
right.
So
exactly.
that's exciting times to live in. Jim,
yeah,
so I know we did not even touch the surface of process conversation with this, but I'm sure we planted good seeds. Okay, so for our audience out there, so watch for more from us and comment, engage, let us know what's working, what's not working, because with the combined wisdom here, I think we can answer and help a lot of people out there. Okay. Thank you, Jim, so much. Thank you. This is great. So process is not dead. BPM is alive, right? With new embellishments and new ways to think about it.
Exactly. It's the tip of the arrow is just changed.
Perfect. Thank you, Jim, so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.